Good evening. I'm still reporting on getting the truth out about the Fort Knox gold problem. I did my first Fort Knox gold story 13 years ago. It was entitled Still Report number 271, Tungsten Filled Gold Bars Discovered. The story basically revealed that a significant portion of the gold bars stored in Fort Knox may have had gold from the inside the bars removed and tungsten cores surreptitiously inserted. In other words, we suspect that between 50 and 75% of the gold that once resided inside those bars has been stolen and replaced by relatively cheap tungsten. Why tungsten? Because it is nearly the same density as gold, but not nearly as precious. When Elon Musk headed up the Doge task force, he apparently put a bug in President Trump's ear about this Fort Knox gold problem and how it needed to be finally investigated. According to Fox Business on February 20th of this year, 2025, Trump told the press pool inside Air Force One, quote, "We're going to go into Fort Knox to make sure the gold is there. If the gold isn't there, we're going to be very upset," close quote. Apparently, no one captured this on film, which is difficult to believe. However, very similar quotes were published by CNBC, USA Today, Bloomberg, The Washington Times, and Associated Press News. He told the AP, in addition, that, quote, Elon Musk would be looking at Fort Knox to see if the gold is there. In May June of 2025, reports indicated that Trump had dropped immediate personal visit plans amid other priorities, and he had, yeah, that's legit. He had a bunch of stuff he was doing. Shifting focus to a formal audit via H.R. 3795, known as the Gold Transparency Act, which was introduced on June 6th of this year. However, the initial statement stands, Trump's initial statement stands as verifiable fact. In other words, he did tell members of the press that he was going into Fort Knox. Just days ago, a U.S. Treasury Department transition document dated November 22nd, 2025, was leaked outlining plans for a comprehensive physical audit of America's gold reserves. This memo, marked sensitive, emerged amid amid renewed calls for transparency following President Trump's February 2025 comments on Air Force One about inspecting Fort Knox and Elon Musk's X posts questioning the reserve's integrity. It gained traction in late November of this year, although through FOIA releases and leaks t- um, tied to the Executive Order 14176, which was the full JFK records declassification, which interestingly enough was bundled with the Fort Knox gold docs. Uh, it was called Transition Planning for U.S. Gold Reserve Verification Operation Sound Money. It mandates a full inventory, assay, and third party verification of 4,580 metric tons of gold. That's 147.3 million ounces of gold across Fort Knox, Kentucky, West Point, New York, and Denver, Colorado, where the three national gold repositories are. Of course, the Fort Knox repository is by far the biggest. This is supposed to be completed by March 31st of 2026. It would be the first independent audit since 1974. I will certainly attempt to be in on this audit reporting from the scene. We'll see if that happens. According to the audit plan, phase one will be serial number reconciliation against the 1953 master list. That'll take 2 months and it'll be led by the GAO. Phase two, the physical assay using XRF spectrometers on unsealed bars, focusing in on the 90% purity issues. Phase 3 will be the Controller General oversight with the Comptroller General oversight with potential revaluation to market prices, which would be a huge windfall at today's price of $4,256 per ounce for gold. Gold is blowing up right now. The background. This was triggered by Rand Paul's February 21st letter demanding access by March 19th and H.R. 3795, the Gold Reserve Transparency Act, introduced on June 6th of 2025 by Representative Thomas Massie et al. The memo notes security concerns but prepares for immediate revaluation post-audit, fueling speculation about debt reduction or fraud exposure, in other words, if tungsten cores are found. Leak context. The memo surfaced via NARA FOIA dumps on November 22nd. It was amplified by Money Metals Exchange reports on November 19th through 21st. Treasury downplayed this as routine, but critics like Mike Gleason, an Idaho vault owner, called it long overdue considering America's $38.35 trillion debt. Why it matters. This is not a PR stunt the way the 1974 Mary Brooks show audit, which we called in the day the Mary Brooks peak, where only 21% of the bars were inspected. If bars are missing or impure, it could shatter trust in the U.S. debt money system. Oh, think of that. No full public release yet, but the memo's exposure has spiked gold to $42.56 an ounce. I warned of this problem, which I call the Fort Knox Great Gold Robbery, 5 times between 2012 and 2020. The 20 The Still Report number 271, entitled Tungsten-Filled Gold Bars Discovered, published in 2012, covers the Manhattan jeweler who drilled a 10-ounce bar and found tungsten inside, plus the Chinese refinery story, which I don't remember, but we'll replay it probably tomorrow night, and see. Then still report number, the next one, 272, Fake Gold Bars, the Tungsten Scam Goes Global, also published in 2012. It was a follow-up, and I showed a German TV drill footage that sorry about that. It showed German TV drill footage and tied it to the bars with U.S. assay certificates. Then there was still report number 1088, is Fort Knox filled with tungsten plated bars, published in 2015. The deep dive, where I laid out the Clinton era allegations of 1.3 to 1.5 million salted 400-ounce bars allegedly swapped into Fort Knox and the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. Then there was still report number 1847, entitled Tungsten Gold Bars, The Scandal That Will Not Die, published in 2018. Updated after the Turkish bank scandal and the reemergence of the same serial numbers tied to original bars from Fort Knox. And then finally, still report 2231, entitled Fort Knox Tungsten Update New Evidence 2020, published in 2020. I discussed a whistleblower who claimed certain bar numbers still in the official inventory matched the known tungsten fakes. Key details of the memo. The title and scope. The title was Transition Planning for U.S. Gold Reserve Verification, Operation Sound Money. It mandates a full inventory assay and third-party verification of 4,580 metric tons, that's 147 million ounces of gold, across Fort Knox, Kentucky, West Point, New York, and Denver, Colorado. These are the three biggest or the three gold repositories in the United States, and this would occur by March 31st, 2026. It would be the first independent audit of gold reserves in Fort Knox since 1974. It'll be done in phases from page 7 to 9 of the report. Phase 1, serial number reconciliation against the 1953 master list, which will take 2 months and led by the GAO. Phase 2, physical assay using XRF spectrometers on unsealed bars, focusing on the 90% purity issue. Phase 3, the Controller General oversight with potential revaluation to market prices. Background. This was triggered by Senator Rand Paul's February 21st letter demanding access by March 19th and H.R. 3795, the Gold Reserves Transparency Act, introduced on June 6, 2025 by Representative Thomas Massey et al. The memo notes security concerns but prepares for immediate revaluation post-audit, fueling speculation about debt reduction or fraud exposure if they find tungsten cores in the gold bars. Leak context surfaced via Nara-Foria dumps on November 22nd. That was just a few days ago. Amplified by Money Metals Exchange reports on November 19th through 21st. The Treasury downplayed it as routine, but critics like Mike Gleason, an Idaho vault owner, called it long overdue amid the country's $36 trillion debt. Why it matters. This isn't a PR stunt like the 1974 show audit, which we called the Mary Brooks Peak, because it was conducted by Mary Brooks, a Treasury official, where only 21% of the gold bars were inspected. They made a big deal about it, but only a small fraction of the gold bars were inspected, probably the ones without tungsten cores, I would guess. If bars are missing or impure, it could shatter fiat trust in the fiat money system. Think of that. Echoing my tungsten series, no full public release yet, but the memo's exposure has spiked gold to $4,430 an ounce, and I imagine it's going to go north from there tomorrow. This is a new angle, and that's why I published my previous story yesterday. 4851, JP Morgan's entire gold trading desk fled to Singapore. What's up with that? Why? If Fort Knox gold bars are filled with tungsten, the corporation had to be controlled by someone with huge pull in the financial sector as well as national politics for many years. If it was a giant robbery, then that would narrow the field down to a very few huge financial operations, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I will repost those 5 videos over the coming week because most of them have disappeared from YouTube's collection of my work. Think of that. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. And if you can afford to send a few greenbacks our way to our PayPal account, which is stillreport@gmail.com, we may be able to survive through December. I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day.